Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, Hercules and everybody who's put this together, uh, thank you for doing this because it's the first time I've ever done anything on a computer, which is different from a camera or a TV thing. And also, obviously, is to thank everybody. They may not be able to hear us at the moment, but who are working on the front line to do with the virus because people are really putting their lives ahead of other families, and there's a lot of goodness that has come out of it. So that's before we go on. I'm editor at large for State Magazine, and also there's a gallery called Bermondsey Project Space, which I help with little bits of, which is in Bermondsey, and we hope to open again when we can get back to normal, whatever normal is. What I'm going to do for this Zoom is there's this wonderful book which I started to read called The West End Front, and this is all about hotels, the Ritz, the Savoy, the Dorchester, Claridge's, and what happened in the Second World War. It was kind of like described like a Casablanca. In the basement, there were plutocrats, cabinet ministers who stayed there through air raids and everything. Chefs cooked their food on radiators. Rats were in the stock pot. There were coffee lounges, there were spies, all different sorts of things. But very quickly, I want to read, there's this chap called Victor Legge, who was the general manager of the Ritz, and Graham Greene, that wonderful author, wrote a poem about this gentleman, Victor Legge, who I'm going to tell you a little bit about later. So I'm going to read the poem. Are you all ready? You ready? Okay, okay. Victor of the Ritz, a bird's been flapping in the chimney all day long. Smoked salmon instead of eggs for breakfast. Something must be wrong. An Egyptian waiter has kissed a girl in room number 423. Why the hell did she make such a fuss instead of calling me? The Ritz may be falling like London Bridge, and I may be a bloody fool. But in a hotel where Victor ceased to rule, I would not wish to be. It's hot as hell, and the windows won't open all day long. It's freezing cold, and the heating's off. Something must be wrong. A Yank's been phoning all night to New York in room number 423. Instead of awakening me, the Ritz is falling like London Bridge, and I am a bloody fool. But in a hotel where Victor ceased to rule, I would not wish to be. I wait for breakfast, I order at 7, all day long. Through the tea will be black and the toast will be soggy. Something must be wrong. They've chilled the claret and heated the Perrier, ordered by room 423. And I quite forgot what I asked them to bring. It's a far-off dream to me. The Ritz has fallen like London Bridge, and I weep like a bloody fool. But in a hotel where Victor ceased to rule, I would not wish to be. And that was written by one of the residents, Graham Greene, the author. So this was going back to September 1939. I'll just read a couple of pages of this book, and it's very, very intriguing. Are you ready? Hello?
Yeah, go on.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. It's just funny, you know, when you appear for an audience, you know me, there's a lot of, you know, you get the atmosphere. So I'm just getting used to this computer screen. So you must excuse me for that. I'll carry on.
Right.
This is all about Victor Legge. The night before the lights went out, Victor Legge was the loneliest man in London. He'd clocked off in the early hours, the first day of September 1939. But he did not go home. Instead, he walked. He went past Fortnum and Mason's, where the windows already crossed with sticky tape and the walls were banked with sandbags. He struck out across Piccadilly Circus through the insomniac streets of Soho and into Covent Garden, where he found an all-night Italian cafe, one of those places where the signs on the wall warn customers that they're not permitted to sleep at the premises. He smoked, he ordered bacon sandwiches and coffee, and he waited for the world to know what he knew. The West End was brighter that night than it would be for a decade. On the hoardings above Piccadilly Circus were the vanishing pleasures of peacetime were described in neon light. The neon advert, Austin Morris Motor on an open road of glowing lines. A burning sign proclaimed the superiority of the Echo television set, the best for receiving service that was doomed to go dark the following lunchtime. Above them all, the Guinness clock measured out the last few illuminated hours. And on the grand Edwardian building from which Victor had begun his solitary journey, the bulbs also glowed, picking out its name in blackout blue. Victor Legg joined the nocturnal population of the Ritz in 1935. He turned up at the back door of the hotel in search of work, and much to his surprise was ushered into the presence of an assistant manager, a hard-headed Swiss called Edward. Edward asked him if he had any experience of hotels. Victor replied that he'd worked behind a reception desk of the Berkeley, a smaller, older establishment on the other side of Piccadilly, but omitted to mention that he'd been given the sack. The manager then inquired to whether he could operate a telephone switch. Victor confirmed that he could, which was not quite a lie. And he asked if he could speak French. The truth was unavoidable. He could not speak French at all. And he was given the job. Every night at 7 o'clock, Victor went to the topmost floor of the hotel and took his place in a hot little room a few doors down from a resident hairdresser. Here, lights pulsed intensely, operators demanded attention, and the Bakelite headset clamped to his hair. He slotted jacks into sockets and connected with callers that called. At 10 o'clock on the last night of August 1939, a brisk military voice asked to be put through to the grill room. Victor obeyed, transferring the call to the basement cloakroom operator. But Victor kept the switchboard key in the forward position. This allowed him to eavesdrop on the conversation. The caller asked if Randolph Churchill was in the building. He had little trouble in confirming his presence. Churchill was the son of Britain's most prominent politician and so notorious and foul-mouthed, intolerance of hotel staff, waiters bribed each other in order to avoid serving him. He's in the bar, replied the attendant. May I ask who's calling? The voice on the other end gave a sharp response. You may not inquire. A few moments later, Churchill had the receiver in his hand. Randy, asked the caller. Yes. The Germans bomb Warsaw tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. The significance of this exchange was not lost on Victor, as it was good as a declaration of war, confirming that Neville Chamberlain's policy of appeasement had reached its endgame, a signal that history had been clicked back to 1914. As soon as Churchill rang off, Victor put the call through to his friend who worked at the BBC. Before he could communicate that news, however, he heard another voice on the line. Operator, it said, be careful of what you repeat. The line fell silent. Victor followed suit. He spent an uneasy night in the hot little room at the top of the Ritz, reflecting on the unfriendly warning and wondering when the security service had begun tapping phones. At the end of his shift, he was relieved to step out into Piccadilly, walking through the quiet streets of the West End, something like we've got now. He settled himself at his favourite table at a cafe near the Theatre Royal and worked his way through several pots of coffee and a packet of Craven A cigarettes. At 10:30, he walked out to the newspaper stand at Covent Garden Tube and brought a copy of the edition of the Star. The headlines carried no news of any bombardment. He flipped to the back page, which bore a gloomy announcement that the cancellation of the Saturday races off Northolt Park, and scanned the list of runners and riders scheduled to churn out in Manchester that afternoon. Two, he noted were the property of the Aga Khan, the millionaire imam, diplomat, and resident at the Ritz, on whose horses the hotel staff placed local bets. The Star kept the right-hand column of the back page the list of the last-minute withdrawals on the field. But the international crisis that he obliged its editor to stop press in the acknowledgement that something graver than a waterlogged course or a bruised furlock. The line, cabled the reporter from the British United Press Agency, confirmed that at 9 o'clock that morning, 90 minutes before the Star hit the stands, the outskirts of Warsaw had felt the impact of the reign of the Luftwaffe's incendiary. A half hour later, the story was already mitigated to the front page and war was confirmed. So what happened was that Victor Legge, who was just the manager of the Ritz, knew that Britain was going to go to war before anybody else, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope we have a lovely evening, and it's lovely seeing you all on the computer screen.
But you're very natural, actually.
Woo! Yeah, that was great.
You're very natural.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at some of these drawings here. They're looking really great. We got this one here from Brian, looking so lovely. And then we've also got this one from Hercules. They're both extremely good. They're very different too. It's such a cool thing to see them happen at the same time.